Good morning. It's Lee Henson, President and Founder of AgileDad, and it's time for today's episode of the Daily Stand-Up. So without any further ado, let's get started. It's Thursday. We're getting close to the end of the week, ramping up for another exciting weekend. And I thought today it would be good to cover another episode for leaders. So these are the top 5 things good leaders actually want to hear you say, which is interesting because we've talked about the things that make a good leader, but now we're going to twist it around and turn it on its head so that you can hear your side of the story and talk about the top 5 things that leaders really want you to say. Now, many of you have taken my class have heard me say before, I've been CEO, CIO, and CTO of so many companies. I've earned all my letters, EIEIO. So for me, when I think of what I wish people would say, there's a short list of things that I really wish they would say. You know, it's different than when you're in the military. So let me give you that example first. So a lot of people who served in the military, because I take care of all those people who serve in the military. I get a lot of those people who go through my courses, and I really appreciate their service. And there are many civilians who work for the military who come through my courses as well. And one of the things I discovered is in that environment, there's a lot of yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, or sir, yes sir, and that is leading to a culture where people feel like they can't say no, or sometimes people just say yes to anything, and it drives me crazy. So I put together, what I felt was a breakdown of the top 5 things that I wish people would say versus the top 5 things that I've heard people say. So here's the first one. It's coming at number 1. I'd love to hear somebody say, here's what I think, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm always going to apply what you say or that I'm always going to completely say that's the best idea I've ever heard, but I'm also not going to shoot down the person who has a good idea. I love the fact that you're trying to keep ideas flowing and that you're coming in with additional information. So when you say, here's what I think, it tells me that you're focused, that you're paying attention, that you're actively listening. And sometimes I end up prioritizing the truth of what's going on based on the information that I hear from others. So there have been several times where I've actually, confession time, come out with a bad idea just to hear other people generate better ideas so I could eventually get to the best idea. So a good boss is someone who takes on a Nelson Mandela principle. They're the last to speak. They value wisdom, intellect, and ideas, and they're not struck by their own seniority, pride, or ego, and they're willing to let go to hear what other people have to say. Because oftentimes the best idea is the last idea. Unless you throw your idea first, then if you're the leader and you throw your idea first, then your idea will always be the best idea because no one wants to go against the grain. Think that through. Number 2 thing I want to hear, and this is one that people get surprised by, is I really need some help, or I have a problem that I need solved. Now, there's a fine line between being the person who always has issues or always needs help and being someone who is genuinely asking for help so that you can accelerate your career, accelerate the pace at which we're delivering a product or service. So I think the key here is to not be a worrywart, but to also understand that there are going to be times where you're weaker than the rest of the team. There's going to be other times where you're the strongest on the team. But I think it's important for you to understand that by saying you need help, you're not going to get your head bitten off by me or anyone else, but that you'll easily understand that this is a step. It's a growth opportunity for you to learn. We all know that if you do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, that's the definition of insanity. And we all know that Jeff Sutherland, with his whole fail early, fail often, that this is just a great opportunity for us to really take advantage and learn, knowing that we're in a safe environment for learning and that we can say we have a problem or that we need help and it's okay. And that we have a team of people who are there to support us and help us get through. Coming at number 3, this one I think might be my favorite out of all of them. I disagree. Now, the way I look at this is people who really aren't good leaders, people who don't know what they're doing, they surround themselves with yes men and yes women. People who tell them yes, that their idea is the best, that they always look good in that dress. While good bosses or good leaders, they're the ones who always want the truth, right? If they only accept their own opinion and demands that are made as truth, then it's hard for you. It cripples the ability of the team to really be effective and to progress and to gain new insight onto things they could be doing to make their product or service even better. So some of the best leaders in the world are the ones that I often hear say something when other people disagree. They don't necessarily just roll over, but they will take a democratic approach and listen. because sometimes they hear the opinions of others and are always valuable, but sometimes they're even more persuasive or more energizing, or they're more fresh, or they make more sense than your very own ideas. So I'm definitely not threatened by someone coming in with good ideas, but sometimes if people are just saying things for the sake of hearing their own voice, that could be a point of concern. So I guess what I'm trying to say is good leaders will welcome people who dissent or disagree, but they still expect for teamwork to prevail and for everyone to work together. And I call this the wine and cheese party. There's nothing worse than when someone comes to the party with all the cheese in the world, or all the wine in the world, but they didn't bring any cheese, right? It doesn't matter how much you like wine. If it's nothing but whining and whining and whining, some of those solutions, some of those good ideas, that cheese needs to be present. Coming at number 4, it's my fault. You know what? A good leader knows taking full responsibility for failure publicly is the hallmark of the best leaders, right? So sometimes, within teams, I appreciate when a team member will take personal responsibility if they fail for something. Because this is something that in every management 101 class, they teach you that if it's your fault, take responsibility. But putting icing on that responsibility as an employee or an associate and saying, hey, I know I did this and it wasn't the right thing to do, but here are some actionable approaches that I took to make sure it doesn't happen again. Then you can have a little bit of a live and learn attitude, right? It's like an investment in your education, which I think is incredibly important. So I think it's time for us to take responsibility and for good bosses to hear that it's my fault, because you know what? It's okay if it is, right? And we'll figure it out. And then coming at number 5, I like this one. I just did it. So good leaders put a high value on initiative, both on their own initiative and the initiative of the people who work for them. So I'm not going to sit here and try to do anything to stifle your initiative or give you a poor way to record productivity or whatever the case may be. But, the truth is, you are going to be required to use your best judgment. And that when you come in with a good idea or with a good initiative, that you're going to be supported, right? So I want you to be an independent thinker. I want you to feel confident. I want you to be a self-starter. I want you to do all those things. But I think that this type of person is hard to find because they've been shot down so many times. So I think that it's important for you to understand that good leaders are looking for people who will step out and will step ahead of the pack and get things done. I think what this all boils down to, though, to be honest, is honesty. There we go. It's truthfulness. It's radical candor. It's creating an environment of psychological safety, all those good things. But the thing that's most interesting to me is I can tell you I've learned the most from my teams when I've pushed back, or when I've said no, or when I've said, here's what I think, or when I've said, I really do have a problem, or I disagree with that. That's when I think I've learned the most from my teams. And that's when I've also learned the most about myself and the product or service that I was trying to create. So I hope this was helpful to you. I hope it was useful. I hope this week has been amazing. As always, we encourage you to tune in to Agile Dad Daily Stand-Up Podcast so that you can learn more about this episode and plenty of others. Also, if you have an episode request, go ahead and submit it to learnmore@agiledad.com. We'd love to hear from you. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.